ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. ಇದು ನಾನು ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಮೀನಾ ಸುಬ್ಬಾರಾವ್. ಸೊ ಇವತ್ತು ಈ ವಿಡಿಯೋದಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಸಣ್ಣ ಮಾಹಿತಿ ಕೋವಿಡ್ ವ್ಯಾಕ್ಸಿನ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಕೊಡ್ತಾಯಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಸೊ ಕೋವಿಡ್ ವೈರಸ್ಸು ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಎ RNA ವೈರಸ್. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಈಗ ವ್ಯಾಕ್ಸಿನ್ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕೆ ಸರ್ಫೇಸ್ ಸ್ಪೈಕ್ ಪ್ರೋಟೀನ್ ಅದನ್ನು ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾಯಿದ್ದೀವಿ. ನಮ್ಮ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಅಮೇರಿಕಾದಲ್ಲಿ ಇರೋ 2 ವ್ಯಾಕ್ಸೀನು, ಫೈಸರ್ ಮತ್ತು ಮೊಡರ್ನಾದ್ದು. ಅದು ವ್ಯಾಕ್ಸೀನು mRNA ವ್ಯಾಕ್ಸೀನು. ಮೊದಲು ದೇರ್ ಆರ್ 4 ಟೈಪ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ವ್ಯಾಕ್ಸಿನ್ ಆ್ಯಕ್ಚುಲಿ. ನಮ್ಮದು ಇದು ಹೊಸದು ಟೆಕ್ನಿಕ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರೋದು. mRNA ವ್ಯಾಕ್ಸಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಹಾಕಿ ವ್ಯಾಕ್ಸಿನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರೋದು ಇದೇ ಮೊದಲು. ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ಮೊದಲು ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಥರ ವ್ಯಾಕ್ಸಿನ್ಸನ್ನು ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀವಿ. ಬಟ್ mRNA ಸೆಗ್ಮೆಂಟು ವೈರಸ್ದು ತೊಗೊಂಡು ವ್ಯಾಕ್ಸಿನ್ ಮಾಡಿರೋದು ದ ವೆರಿ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಇದು ಈ ಟೆಕ್ನಿಕ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿರೋದು. ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಆ್ಯಕ್ಚುಲಿ ವೆರಿ ನಾವೆಲ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಟೈಮ್ mRNA ಯೂಸ್ಡ್ ಇನ್ ದ ವ್ಯಾಕ್ಸಿನ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು. ಬೇರೆ ಅದರ್ ವ್ಯಾಕ್ಸಿನ್ಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ದೇರ್ ಆರ್ ಅದರ್ ಟೈಪ್ಸ್, ಲೈವ್ ಅಟೆನ್ಯೂಯೇಟೆಡ್ ವ್ಯಾಕ್ಸಿನ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ, ಮತ್ತು ಎಪೀಸ್ ಆಫ್ ವೈರಸ್ ಪ್ರೋಟೀನ್ ಸಬ್ ಯೂನಿಟ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ ಟೇಕನ್ ಟು ಮೇಕ್ ದ ವ್ಯಾಕ್ಸಿನ್ಸ್. ಮತ್ತು ಕೆಲವು ವೈರಲ್ ವೆಕ್ಟರ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೇವೆ. ಆವಾಗ ಬೇರೆ ವೈರಸ್ ಹಾಕಿ, ಅಡಿನೋ ವೈರಸ್ ಹಾಕಿ ಆಂಟಿಬಾಡೀಸ್ ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ, ಸೊ ಯು ಮೇ ಗೆಟ್ ಇನ್ಫೆಕ್ಷನ್ ವಿತ್ ಅದರ್ ವೈರಸ್ ವಿಚ್ ಆರ್ ಲೆಸ್ ಸಿವಿಯರ್. ಆ ಥರ ವ್ಯಾಕ್ಸಿನ್ಸು ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಬಟ್ ಇದು ಅವು 3 ಯಾವುದು ಸಬ್ಟೈಪ್ಸ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿಲ್ಲ. ಇವಾಗ ಕೋವಿಡ್ ವ್ಯಾಕ್ಸಿನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರೋದು ಅಮೇರಿಕಾದಲ್ಲಿ 2, ಮೊಡರ್ನಾ ಮತ್ತು ಫೈಸರಲ್ಲಿ ವಿ ಆರ್ ಯೂಸಿಂಗ್ mRNA ವ್ಯಾಕ್ಸಿನ್. ಅಂದರೆ mRNA ಸೆಗ್ಮೆಂಟನ್ನು ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ ವ್ಯಾಕ್ಸಿನ್ಗೆ. ಇದು ಹೇಗೆ ವರ್ಕ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತಂದರೆ, ಈ ಕೋವಿಡ್-19 ವೈರಸ್ಸಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಒಂದು ಸ್ಮಾಲ್ ಜೀನ್ ಸೆಗ್ಮೆಂಟ್, ಅದು ವಿಚ್ ಕೋಡ್ಸ್ ಫಾರ್ ಸ್ಪೈಕ್ ಪ್ರೋಟೀನ್, ಅದನ್ನು ತಗೊಂಡು ಅದನ್ನು ಫ್ಯಾಟ್ ಮಾಲಿಕ್ಯೂಲ್ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಇದು ಮಾಡಿಬಿಟ್ಟು, ಸೊ ಇಟ್ ಗೋ ಇನ್ ಟು ದ ಸೆಲ್ಸ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಮಸಲ್ ಸೆಲ್ಸ್ಗೆ, ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಇಟ್ ಟ್ರಿಕ್ಸ್ ದ ರೈಬೋಸೋಮ್ಸ್. ದ ರೈಬೋಸೋಮ್ಸ್ ಇಸ್ ದ ಒನ್ ವಿಚ್ ಮೇಕ್ಸ್ ದ protein actually, which make the spike protein, because we are using the genetic material or the small segment of the virus genetic material which actually code for the spike protein. The spike protein is the outer spike protein, because ಕೋವಿಡ್ ವೈರಸ್ಸು ನಮ್ಮ ಬಾಡಿ ಸೆಲ್ಸ್ನ ಅಟ್ಯಾಕ್ ಮಾಡೋದು ಹೆಂಗೆ ಅಂದರೆ, ಆ ಸ್ಪೈಕ್ ಪ್ರೋಟೀನ್ ಇಂದ ಇಟ್ ಅಟ್ಯಾಚಸ್ ಟು ದ ಏಸ್ ರೆಸೆಪ್ಟರ್, ಅಂದರೆ angiotensin converting enzyme receptor. ಆದ್ದರಿಂದ ವಿ ಆರ್ ಯೂಸಿಂಗ್ ದ genetic material or the genetic small segment of the genetic material of the virus which code for the spike protein. Like when it replicates, that codes ಅದನ್ನು ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಅದನ್ನು ಒಂದು ಫ್ಯಾಟ್ ಮಾಲಿಕ್ಯೂಲ್ ಒಳಗೆ ಇದು ಇನ್ಸರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ, ಸೊ ವಿ ಆರ್ ಇಂಜೆಕ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಆ್ಯಸ್ ಎ ವ್ಯಾಕ್ಸಿನ್. So that goes into the muscle cells. A muscle cells alli ribosomes alli it will trick the ribosomes to synthesize spike protein. So it doesn't synthesize, it replicates the whole virus, because there is no whole virus material in there. It is only a little bit of genetic material which actually codes for spike protein. So what it can make through the ribosomes, through the synthesis, that's the mRNA, it synthesizes in the ribosomes. It tricks the ribosomes and it synthesize ಅಂದರೆ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. ಏನು ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ? ಸ್ಪೈಕ್ ಪ್ರೋಟೀನ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. ಆ ಸ್ಪೈಕ್ ಪ್ರೋಟೀನ್ it will induce immunity in developing antibodies against the spike protein through our natural immune system. Like, so the antibodies will be formed by the antibody forming cells of the lymphocytes against the spike protein, so that way we will have the antibodies to the spike protein, and when the virus infects us, so we will have antibodies which can go against and take care of the spike protein, so it's not going to go into the cells of the respiratory system and cause replication and then also infection by the COVID virus. So, and ನಾನು ಹೇಳ್ದಂಗೆ this is very novel first time technique of using mRNA used in the vaccine. So previously ಬೇರೆ ಥರ ವ್ಯಾಕ್ಸಿನ್ಸ್ಗೆ ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಥರ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀವಿ, but this is the first time we are using the mRNA as a vaccine. So the Pfizer vaccine, Pfizer ಮತ್ತು Moderna vaccine, both are pretty much similar. There are 2 vaccines right now approved by FDA. So they are pretty much similar. So they did some clinical trials for close to 8 weeks, 2 months ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು. They did 1 dose and then they did the second dose. Both of them needed 2 doses. And they checked the antibody and then the prevention of the infection. So they did get very remarkable results. In the placebo group, like about 162 cases of COVID infection occurred 7 days after the second dose of the vaccine, placebo vaccine. And in the vaccine group, those who received the vaccine, like 2 doses, they saw only about 9 cases occurred 7 days after the vaccine. So the vaccine was effective in preventing COVID-19 diseases is almost very close to 94.6%, and almost 95%. It was effective in preventing the COVID-19 infection with this mRNA vaccine clinical trials. So first dose ಆದಮೇಲೆ what they saw was 52% efficacy between 2 doses. Like first dose was done like after like 7 days to like 14 days, for example, 2 weeks after the first dose. They did see some antibodies and it was effective preventing 52% efficacy. But when you take the second dose and after the 2 doses and after for example 7 days after the second dose, so that would be close to like after a month and a week after that, and 5 weeks ಅಷ್ಟೊತ್ತಿಗೆ, so it's almost 95% effective in preventing the COVID-19 diseases. So the end results, when they studied the end results, what was the end point? Andre confirmed COVID-19 infection. Andre for some people, they like half of the people, they did the placebo injections, half of the clinical trials, the half of the population that they took, they did the vaccine, like 1 and 2 doses, and then the placebo 1 and 2 doses. And after that, so the moment they saw the infection in any of these clinical trial patients, that was the end point. Like how many of them after the second dose of the vaccine, like after 7 days, how many of them got the COVID infection in the placebo pool, and how many of them got the infection in the vaccine group. So in this group, like around like 162 cases, the total was around like the total clinical trial numbers were like close to 45. I think it's 45,000. So close to 45,000. Like half of them got the vaccine and half of them got the placebo. It was 2 doses, both of them, like in between, like around 21 days between the first and second dose. Out of these, like after the second dose done, after 7 days, they studied like how many of them got infected in the placebo. That was about 162 cases were infected with the COVID, and that was confirmed by the COVID test, like RT-PCR was positive. And then the second group, in the vaccine group, only 9 cases had the infection after 7 days. So that means it prevented the infection because of the antibodies which formed because they received the vaccine injections, number 1 dose and number 2 dose. And after 7 days of that, like they had immunity close to, the efficacy rate was close to 95%. So we know for sure, like about after 2 doses, like it is effective, like close to 95% after 2 doses. And after 1 dose, like it's around like somewhere between 50 to 75%, or maybe around like what they saw in between the doses was around 52% efficacy rates. So safety is pretty safe, but does have some side effects, but not serious side effects. There was no death occurred in the clinical trials in the patients who received the vaccine. And there was some serious adverse events which were seen in both groups, both in the vaccine group and also the placebo group. Vaccine group only 0.6% and placebo group was 0.5%. So that is very similar to each other. So it's hard to make any conclusion like the vaccine does have a serious side effects. So what the major side effects they saw was 85% of the vaccinated mild to moderate pain at the injection site because the material injected was a vaccine, and this is in the vaccinated group. And for the placebo injected group, they saw this pain is around 15% of the patients who got the placebo injection had the mild to moderate pain at the injection site. Like any shot, when you get, there may be some soreness, swelling, and pains. So that's what happened in 85% of the patients who received this vaccination group had a mild to moderate pain, and 15% was the placebo one. So naturally, that's understandable because the placebo doesn't have a medicine. It's a fake one, like a bland or something very neutral, like something which is not going to cause, like maybe just a saline or something like that. So the fever was seen around like 50%, 16% of the patients, and the fatigue, tiredness 23%, and headache of 52%. And the serious adverse events, as I told, like both were very similar, 0.6% in the vaccine group and 0.5% in the placebo group. And there were some of them, like 20 shoulder injury from the vaccine administration, like the swelling and stuff in the shoulder area, and some lymph node enlargement in the axillary. That is because local sensitive reaction of the body is leading to reactive lymph node enlargement. And then also there were some paroxysmal ventricular heart, like a rapid heart rate in some patients. But there was no death reported in all these side effects. No deaths reported, and 23% actually became pregnant during the trial, like after the first and second doses during this 2 months period, with no clear adverse events. That means there was no abortion or anything. They were able to become pregnant, so that didn't cause any side effects with no related to pregnancy. So with no clear adverse events, so they be 23% were pregnant. So this vaccine is pretty safe, and it's supposed to be efficacy, like close to 95% efficacy. And this is both Moderna and Pfizer vaccine are pretty much same, but they both need 2 doses. And it's just the Moderna vaccine, the 2 vaccine that we do like around 28 days in between the dose 1 and dose 2, whereas in Pfizer vaccine it's about 21 days, close to somewhere between around like 3 weeks in between dose 1 and dose 2. So it's pretty safe, but there are some contraindications for the vaccine, like if there is any allergy to the ingredients used, or if there is any serious adverse effect, which was for the previous any vaccines, and then also if they have any other allergy and some cancer patients, some kind of cancers, some kinds of immune depression or immune suppression patients, or kind of it's contraindicated for those depending on the type of the cancer and also the type of the immune suppression.